All right. So you said the first one here.
Yeah.
All right, I am streaming.
Ready for battle.
Manny Star.
Sorry, thank you. Alrighty. So, how have things been going since last time? Have you seen improvement? Have your games been going good? Have you had any troubles or questions about anything?
Yeah, I had an immediate like run of errors. So like I think I was silver 3 when I talked to you and then managed to get up to gold 5.
Nice.
But we've had a couple of bad days just with the stack is like
Mm.
all off doing holiday stuff at the moment. So there's
Mhm.
been a lot more of random teammate stuff kind of
Mhm.
throwing a spanner in the works. We also did a full day of like comp open queue just to blow steam and see what that was like. But it was
Mhm.
interesting that in a single day in that, we went from like bronze 5 to gold 4. It's
Mm.
like, okay, this is a whole different ball game out here.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit. Well, firstly, I would assume that the system's just trying to kind of place where you guys are at. It would be the
Yeah,
one thing. The second thing is that there's just less of a player base, so it's a bit. There's less competition in open queue.
for sure, for
Hmm.
sure.
Alrighty. Did
And
you have
some
any?
really interesting decisions being made in team
Yeah.
comp as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm. Yep. Did you have any questions for me before we got started?
No, let's go for it.
Okay. Well, let me hop into it then.
Awesome.
Your end is within my reach. The payload moves towards our desired outcome, enhancing your vitals. Let go. A taste of poison.
All right. So far, I'm noticing like a couple things just going off with like we'll throw orbs kind of in the wrong direction, or we'll like we'll heal when we're kind of aiming at enemies. So like just like something like this, or where we kind of like toss our orb up into the air, which
Mm,
even if the May's like that direction, she's not gonna be that direction for long, right? She's falling through the
yeah,
sky, so
yeah.
that sort of thing. Where just make sure when we're placing an orb that we're throwing it at in the direction of people, and remembering that it's a projectile, so it's gonna have some travel time on it. So keep an eye on that sort of thing.
I'm under attack. Repairing your cellular makeup. Your strength becomes mine. Double. A cure for all the
Uh oh.
Yeah, I think did that healing orb get caught on the lamppost there?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot escape me. Eyes open now. Your end is within my reach. Help me. A sip for the
All right,
parched.
so we're going to go over a couple different topics here now with Moira's healing and whatnot. So, first one, which last time we went over Zenyatta, and this isn't really too much of something. It is something that exists on Zenyatta, but not as nearly as big of a deal as on a character like Moira. And that is the concept of overhealing. And overhealing is pretty much any time somebody is full HP or very close to full HP and we're spending time trying to heal them. And that could be if they're full HP, then what that is that means that you are both wasting your resource meter, where you have this, this limited amount of healing, and we're just wasting it on people who don't need healing. And then and then on top of that, probably another major deal is the fact that it is wasting time healing, where it's basically just the equivalent of being AFK, right? Where you're not really doing anything in particular. And it could be, and instead, so when somebody's full HP, you can look around and you can immediately swap to damaging. You can look for to damage
Yeah.
people. You can look for somebody else who actually does need healing. You could be using an ability. You could be paying attention to your surroundings. On characters that can reload, you can use that time to reload, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing to watch out for is people who are very close to full HP. So if somebody's like, let's say you have a tank who has like 600 HP and they're down 100, well, you got to think to yourself, okay, in certain circumstances, is that 100 HP that they're missing realistically um, the most valuable thing you could be doing with your time? When
Sure.
alternatively you could be damaging or healing somebody else who needs it more or throwing an ability, right? That sort of idea. So just watch out for, health bars and think, is this the most valuable thing I could be doing right now? So
Yeah.
maybe in between a fight, then sure, yeah, that's the most valuable thing you could be doing. But in a fight, if the, I don't know, like if the Mercy or the Junkrat's down like 30 HP, sometimes that 30 HP isn't really that big of a deal in comparison to what you could be doing.
Cool.
That all makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So that's thing number one. So thing number two is make sure that anytime healing, and this is going to be something, and maybe we'll see it come up. Usually you'll see it come up as a consistent thing, but
Mhm.
this applies to your left click and your right click. This applies to your orbs when we heal versus damage. This applies to your ultimate. Do we heal or damage? Really, realistically, this is a thing throughout your entire kit as Moira. When should you heal? When should you damage? As
Yeah.
Moira, you're pretty much not in terms of statistics because that may vary, but generally speaking, in terms of how often you spend on healing and damaging, which will change depending on the game. Some games you'll need more healing,
Sure
some
thing.
games you'll need less. You'll need less, but generally speaking, it's about a 50-50 split, right? In terms of
Okay.
time. And the difference of when you should be doing which is basically when healing is needed, you heal. When healing is not needed, you damage. It's pretty
Or you
much as
damage.
simple as that.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
right now, there's a lot of time where healing isn't really needed and we're not looking for damage.
Okay.
Which leads to a lot of downtime where you're not really doing too much in particular, right? Where we could be higher up on a resource bar here. We could, rather than being down in the critical, range,
Yep.
we could be possibly getting in more damage, which means more ult charge. More
Yes.
ults and more damage means more kills, right? And that means more value.
Yep.
So overall, all gonna be really good. So that all makes sense. The concept's going good.
1,000,000%. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
almost like I'm aware I overheal
Mm-hmm.
on Moira, but almost the weird community meta of like toxic DPS Moira, I
Mm-hmm.
think like pushes me to like kind of overheal in a way
Mm.
to like
Yep.
prove I'm not gonna do that. Uh,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be at the detriment of like what's actually useful in the game.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't be at the detriment of like, actually getting value because if you
Yeah.
if you are doing good and you're winning, well then you probably won't as often have toxic teammates. In fact, like I'd venture as far to say that you'll probably, if you are doing poorly and losing because you're overhealing, you'll probably have more complaints because now people are kind of tilted because they're losing, right? If you're winning more
You
because you're
you would think. You would think, but honestly, the community out there is wild at the moment. Like I
Mm,
had a game yesterday with like more lens and damage than the DPS and tanks, more heals than all the other support in the game,
mhm.
and literally had like three teammates being like, "For fuck's sake, heal Moira." It's like,
Yeah, no,
what am I
that's
meant to do?
100%. And in those cases, it's just it's just so easy in this game just to like do a quick mute, and that'd
Yeah,
be one of my
that's
biggest
very true.
recommendations.
Yep,
Yep.
you're
Hmm.
so right.
As soon as soon as anybody just gives a peek, because usually when someone like says one toxic thing, there's usually more that follows.
Yeah.
So I'll just, and there's no really, you're not missing out on too much then in that case. So
In
it's
terms
just a
of
quick mute.
useful comms,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Hmm. All right. So then, next thing, this is all along the same strand would be like the orb usage here. So your healing orbs, basically damage orbs come when healing orbs are not needed. like we said before, right?
Yeah.
You just chuck them in anytime you're not needing a heal orb. When you do need a healing orb, it's pretty versatile. You use a heal orb when your team need burst healing. Right, so
Yeah.
when they are, in danger or really low, and you're trying to heal them up, like, from 2 different sources, you use it for big group healing. You can use it when you're low on your resource, you're trying to conserve it. You can use it in between fights when you're trying to conserve your heal resource. You could use it when people are too far away for your normal healing. You can
Yeah.
use it, insert other thing here because I forgot. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use it. Now, when you don't need to use it is when none of those apply, or just quite frankly, when somebody is full HP, then heal orb's not going to do nothing, right? So let's look through this engagement right here,
Sip for the parched.
right? When we throw heal orb and we kind of look at the top right corner of our screen, and we see, or we can look at an actual screen, or we can look in the tab right on the top right,
Yeah.
and we kind of see, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
Everybody's full HP, right? So now this orb just kind of runs around in that room, and damage orb probably just be a bit better. And then now we run into an issue. What's the issue currently?
I'm out in the open, easy to be picked off.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
that's definitely something. I don't think
Yeah.
it's that bad because we're pretty far away from them, and we're running to cover, and we do have a fade. So yeah, you are correct, but not like a
Can I
major deal.
explain my thinking there, which I totally accept is probably not the best, but I basically sent that orb predicting that the tank and that DPS were going to take some more damage in a second or two, so that I could then turn my attention to the right without worrying about them for a few seconds.
Yeah. Usually I would just, like, not all the time, but most of the time I would just presume that they are, that they're, like, presume that they're going to be good unless they actually start taking damage. The only time you would preemptively do it, because the other thing is that if you're doing it preemptively, the thing you have to think about as well is with Moira Orb, the orb slows down for people when it's healing them, but it goes super speedy if it's not, slowing down to heal them. Also, at the same time, it will run out and dissipate if it's bouncing around for too long, right?
Yeah.
So, if you throw it too early, or you just throw it when they don't need healing, then it could just bounce off into nothingness, or it could just disappear before they actually need it, versus throwing it when they do need it. The only time I'd say, like, you can do that is if, like, you know that people are taking damage, like, really soon. Like, let's say your whole team gets grabbed, right?
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, I know there's at least going to be somebody who is not full HP in that. Right? Or your whole team gets shattered, or they, all get Sigma fluxed up in the air. That sort of thing. Like, that's a situation where you're like, okay, this is pretty much like a guarantee that somebody's taking damage. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just thing to look out for. Here, the thing I'm noting is that we don't have any resource on our resource bar. Right.
Yep.
So that's a problem. Now we can't heal people, and then we just used our only other option for healing on nothing, right? Which this gets into the fact that we're also not damaging as much as we should be. Which
able to recharge the
yeah. Once you start doing more damage, you'll notice it also goes down less, which allows you to heal more when you need to heal more. But it is a good instinct to you saw that it was low, and you now you're going for the damage. So that's good. That's good that you noticed it. Okay, so once again you good to notice that they were low here. But notice they're also throwing the heal orb when they're like none of the really things that we were talking about applying. Yeah, they're not immediately in danger. We're not really bursting them.
And they've got mercy on them as well.
Yeah, so we can probably just heal them up normally here, right? And then we don't need to use the ability. Whereas Doomfist, healing up Doomfist, that one would maybe be okay to use use that. Uh-oh. We get Icicle. We kind of seem to be like walking in a straight line there.
Yes.
Watching the movement. Did we talk about movement last time?
We did.
We
Yeah,
did,
I
yeah.
think that's
Okay,
yeah.
I thought I remembered doing that. So just watch it, because here we're kind of like going just straight, walking in a straight forwards, and then walking straight back, and then walking straight forward. So just looking to mix it up a bit more than that.
Clear out. Not even you deserve death. Be nourished. Big stanger left. I require assistance. You're broken. May I? The invert broker. Pain is inevitable. A sip for the parched. Middle stopped. See to it. Eyes open now. Stay put. Receive my
Make sure we're just kind of trying to get a grip on like our left click versus right click, because I'm noticing a lot of times we're kind of getting this bad habit of like healing air or healing enemies, right? Where we'll kind of notice how we like come in, so we can see this, right? So this kind of goes on overhealing a little bit, but like watch how we like tap the air here when like we're not really looking at anybody in particular, and then those teammates are already full HP, and then we come out and those start healing these guys, right? So that's something that I'm just noticing like to be a thing that's popping up a lot. So it's just a little bit of a bad habit. And then that once again will just help us to do more, because it's just time that we're doing nothing, and then it'll help us conserve our resource a bit better as
For
well.
sure.
Excuse me. That'll help us just conserve that more. Okay. Probably don't have too great of a dueling potential against, like if
No,
we're inside a room with
yeah,
two people.
I was calling
Yeah.
myself out in team chat for trying to 1v1 on Moira, Sojourn and Lucio. I immediately called myself out for
Yep,
that.
exactly. So probably could just be fading back out of that room.
Yeah.
You will be renewed.
That confused me for a second. I forgot which color we were. I was like, oh, you didn't heal him, and I was like, oh, wait a moment, never mind.
Your strength becomes mine. I am up.
You once again kind of notice the healing of the floor again here,
I am up.
and then the heal orb when the Symmetra is down, like 50 HP. Yep. So you just gotta watch especially big thing is just watch those health bars. Heal when healing's needed. Don't when it's not. There. So let's real quick talk about a couple of things. So we're at 442, because there we were trying to heal when we were way out of range of it. So let's talk over the ranges just so you can visualize those.
That was definitely like pure desperation, just watching our tank get melted.
I think we had Fade, if I'm not mistaken. I can go back and check. But
okay.
if you have Fade, feel free to fade up, because look with
Yeah.
Fade, we can cover a large distance. Just make
For
sure you're
sure.
jumping at the end of it, because that gets you like an extra like 8 meters. But with our Fade, we can cover about like 28 meters in like the second that it takes to do that. So if you need to catch up to a teammate, just go and fade up, and then we can catch up with them. Make sure that when we're positioning ourselves, that you're trying to position to, I'd say you're doing a good job of positioning yourself around your teammates for the most part, but note that your teammates your healing is going to be 15 meters, so 15. I can heal them from here. Notice if I back up just an inch right to here, I guess I have to let them be down. Now I can't heal.
Yeah.
Now your damage range is 20 meters. Notice how I can't hit them. Now I can. Can. Right, so that's 20 meters right here. Make sure that this one I'd say is the bigger deal. of just make sure that you're trying to constantly put yourself within this range. Now, if that's suicide, then don't commit. Don't do that. Don't kill yourself to put yourself within the range if it's out of the question for that circumstance. But whenever you're able to, right, when the fights started and whatnot, try to put yourself within this range so you can just within a second you can just real quick damage and be able to recharge your resource, get damage, and that sort of thing. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you just want to at a moment's notice. Um, Orbs, be careful with your orbs. I'm noticing a lot of times they're like kind of angled upwards with them, and then they'll kind of bounce, or they'll just like go. We'll like angle them up here, and they'll just like go off faster, off like into Narnia, into nothingness. So instead, just make sure we're angling it down a bit more. Try to toss it out where we know people are going to be. Damage orbs are pretty good. They'll get you, if we're like at 90 here, and we toss a damage orb, and it like gets fully ticked through between people, that'll get us like as you saw, like it got us like 8% to our ultimate. So if you're tossing those more, so if you're tossing them more frequently, like let's say we just got out like three more of those, like every time we are going for our ult, we'd be charging our ultimate like 25% faster, which is a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah,
That's
especially with like the healing of Coalesce, which is like wild. And,
yeah.
and fights that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see what else is there. Whenever I used that a little bit early. Whenever you're throwing your orbs, look to try to find objects, right? So we can look for walls. If you have two walls, that is usually best, right? So we can go side to side and just have it infinitely bounce between it, and then it just stays there as long as possible. We can also do this up and down if you have a ceiling. Yep. If you don't have those as options, then you can do a normal wall, but that's kind of like it's good. It's just not as good. Before you're using coalescence, toss in an orb. You do this because the coalescence is 8 seconds and the orb cooldown is 8 seconds. So you basically get a free extra orb in it versus not using it. And you basically are going to toss whichever orb you're using the coalescence primarily for. So if you see, oh, my whole team's critical and I need to burst heal them with coalescence, so then toss in a heal orb. If there's only enemies in front of you, then toss in a damage orb, and you can damage people much quicker as you're kind of shredding through them with 2 different damage sources.
Amazing.
Right. What else is there? Just note and keep in mind that because some people don't really think through it when they use their fade. You have a lot of mobility within your fade, a lot of options. That's not just going straight forwards, right? We can fade and like go an inch forwards, or we could stand completely still if we wanted to. Which also means backwards. You can fade and go backwards. You can fade and make turns. So I can fade, go backwards, and get around the corner. Just by holding back into the side while I'm using my fade. All right, which can just help get you away from danger and whatnot. Is there anything else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Any questions so far?
No, not at all. I mean, I have chosen like you said to choose kind of an average game. So like my play on Moira there won't be the best. I do like my flying curvy fades, but I see I'm not using it a lot in this replay.
Sorry, say that one more time when you said like I asked you for what games?
Like average-ish games, like not.
Oh, average-ish games. All right,
games,
gotcha.
you know?
All right, gotcha. All right, let me get back into that then here. Let's go. I watch I am.
Yeah.
Sorry, my friend just came in and poisoned me. gave me a really nasty bubble tea, and I gagging. All right.
Sabotage.
All right. So let's hop into it.
Welcome to Circuit Royale. Ready for battle.
All right.
Your strength becomes mine. I am optimized.
Alright, so here, this is when we kind of chase in. We do a fade. This is where we do a fade, right? Like if you look on the bottom right. So we
We're
definitely
gonna
could
take
fade.
the time to Doom and giving
Exactly.
him a bit more support for
Yep.
sure.
Note that you don't really seem to be using fade too much. I'd say use it more frequently. Fade can be
Okay.
used for multiple uses, right? Multiple purposes. You can use fade to dodge and negate damage, right? If you're taking damage, it can get you out of danger. You can use it to a lot. It can be very useful for mobility and movement, whether that's to come back from spawn faster, to get closer to a teammate faster. You can use it to get a high ground, to cover distances quicker. You can use it to move through the open, so you don't have to be out. You don't have to run through the open. Like I said before, you can use it to dodge abilities in ultimate. You can dodge. If you're low HP, you can run away with it. You just have a lot of options with it. And you just want to make sure you're looking. Use it because it doesn't. I think we use it when coming back from spawn. And then in the middle of fights, I've maybe seen it being used like twice so far, right? So
Okay.
just look to use
Yeah.
the ability a bit more. Like this being an example. And then we also are trying to heal Doomfist when we said like 15 meters. This is like
Yeah.
this is
That's
like
out.
yeah, it's like 35
Yeah.
meters. Like you can see it here as they're trying to heal, right?
Yeah.
It are, and then that means that we pretty much waste like half of our meter. We go like over half of our meter on that.
Land is within my
Yeah.
reach. Let's keep it moving.
Now there, maybe I wouldn't recommend fading into that.
Yeah. No, it was a very cautious peek.
Part.
So here once again, I'd be like, so take a look here right now. Couple things. Firstly, note that I don't know if I have to go super in depth on this, but note you only ever need one person on cart at a time unless you're
Yeah.
really close to capping and you think you can cap before they touch.
Yeah.
That would be the only time that you would need to have more than one person on cart, because it only having 3 people on cart increases the movement speed by 33%, which sounds really good, but when you think about it, it doesn't actually change the number of fights you have to fight per point.
No.
So
And this was a backup to avoid death rather than to get on the payload. 'Cause we're without Reaper in our tank at the moment, I think. Yeah.
if you remember, 28 meters means I could be right here. I can poke, and this is the other thing I was gonna say is you should right now probably just poke to get like the rest of your
Yeah.
resources back. And then what you can do is you can poke, grab it, duck around the corner. If they push you, you just instantly back to here. Right.
Yeah. You're so right. Yeah. Sure.
Now, that might be a different story if it was only you, like if it was a 3v1 and you don't have teammates here, then maybe don't do that. Don't tempt fate, but you have teammates here who can support you, so you should be good. So here probably can be peaking for that. Probably could be getting a resource back up because we're kind of like half and we want to be coming into the fight at full, not coming into the fight at half. And then the other thing is here we toss a heal orb once again when she's not, we could probably use normal healer, right? So then
And then get a damage orb down there and keep poking them a bit instead.
yeah, exactly. Get some more ult charge, right? Maybe that means that might here if we're like 80%. That might mean the difference between having our ultimate for the start of the fight and having our ultimate mid fight.
Lending a hand. Reality bends to my will.
Oh, make sure you're watching a Mercy. She's going in for res. Maybe you can, even though that's maybe not the smartest idea.
Should have kept her up.
Yeah, exactly. You just go for healing, even if it wasn't smart. Good fade. Okay. So
Not great. Yeah.
what's the issue with it?
Well, there's like, not only are they not like needing the supercharged heals right then, I also can't hit any of the opposite team, and I should really have healing and attack
Gotcha.
when I'm like lining up coalesce.
That's a fantastic point. That wasn't even the thing that I was noticing, so that's a great point. You're using it for overhealing, and then you don't really have line of sight on anybody to damage with really at the moment. Now you do a little bit, but when we used it, we didn't. Now I'm noticing probably a little bit of a bigger thing within that too. Last time, I don't know if did we fully go into it at all? Did we cover how to tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight?
No.
No. Let's go over that because that's a pretty big thing. It's pretty important.
Okay.
So how do you tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight? This primarily comes down to watching kill feed. There's a little bit more to it, but this is gonna be the basics of it. You can get more advanced with it, but the basics of how to tell. Or you watch kill feed, you see are you up, are you down people. If you are up or down 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage, right? In which case you play
Yep.
more aggressive or more
Or
passive.
passive. Yep.
And then if you are up or down 2 to 3 people, that is a won fight or a lost fight. So before, if you just have an advantage or disadvantage, it still could go either way. But in a won or lost fight, that's where you get super aggressive or you get really passive. You get out if you can. And if you
Yep.
cannot, you let them kill you. And then you also don't want to be using ultimates in won or lost fights because if you've used your ultimate in a one fight, then it's just overkill. And if you use it in a lost fight, well, then you're probably going to lose anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And then it just gets wasted. So if we're taking a look at this, it's currently a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus a 1, 2, 3. Right? So
Yeah,
that
we
means we're
lost
down 2 people.
Yeah. The odds are. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Mhm.
Go in for it then. Make sense?
Absolutely. For
Mhm.
sure.
I tossed an orb in with it too. Actually, I don't know if we had orb available when we used it.
I was 1 second away, maybe. So
Surrender.
You got it right as you pressed it.
right as I did, yeah.
Okay. Last time, did we go over target priority?
No.
No. Okay. So target priority. I'm mildly surprised because I think target priority is even I'd say even more important on a. I don't know. It's maybe about the same on Zenyatta, but maybe
I
mildly more
think my
important.
positioning was bad enough with
Mhm.
Zen, but that was the main focus.
Fair enough. So target priority is basically just who should you be shooting, and the and once again we're gonna go over the basics of it. We don't have to go super advanced, but the basics of who should you be shooting is who's the easiest to kill. The
Yes.
hardest things to kill are going to be the things that don't actually die, and the easy things to kill will die. Now, the hardest things to kill by design are the tanks.
Yeah.
Right, because the tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor. They have tanking abilities. They have shields. They are healed the easiest. They're really difficult to kill, and therefore probably don't want to be shooting at the hard things to kill too much.
Sure.
You shoot at them if they're low. I mean, it's not sorry. So like, it's not to say you never shoot at them, right? You shoot at them if they're low, if they're out of position, if
But
they're the
better
only
to pick
option.
the squishies or try and get rid of the supports so they're not getting heals
Yeah.
anymore, which
hmm
then makes them easier to kill.
Yeah, so definitely the squishies, and there's enough. There's even among the squishies, there's a hierarchy, right? Like
Yeah,
on the enemy team, who's gonna be easier to kill? Let's just say a Mei or a Zenyatta.
definitely Zen.
Then harder to kill,
Easier,
easier. Yeah,
because
there
like
you
if
go.
May's got her iceberg in the pocket, then
Yep. And then who's gonna be harder, more difficult to kill? The Kiriko or the Sojourn?
I think Kiriko would be harder to kill if she's
Yeah,
got TPs then,
exactly.
and self heal as well.
Yep. TP, self heal, and immortality, right?
Yep.
So, even among the others, there's a hierarchy, right? So just kind of pay attention to that and try to go for the easier things whenever you're able to. And then if
Yeah,
you're
and
unable
if
to,
there's anyone I would want gone at that moment, it would be Sojourn as well, because that railgun's deadly, and there she
mm-hmm.
is,
Yep.
sitting, waiting to be picked off.
Yep. So I've just noticed a bit of times where we're kind of looking at their tank, and maybe we have some
Yeah.
other options to shoot at. Right. Notice how we kind of watch health bars. We were good. We were healing them, and then once we heal them, watch. Firstly, I think we kind of stepped to the max range here, but notice now, look top right. Everyone's full HP, and
Yeah.
then look how long we continue to go for, and we're also kind of shaking it here and like kind of hitting a lot of air. When you're going back and forth, so we basically use like our entire resource bar on healing people who are like full HP, right?
Yeah.
So make sure you're just watching. Swap the damage.
Need a moment to recharge.
Also, I think trying to do a lot of healing out of range there. I'd be peeking for healing because you're kind of out of it at the moment. So I just go for some more. When you're going for damage, try to intentionally go for the squishies because you might actually get some kills out of it too. Whereas we're not really getting. We're getting a decent bit of damage in, but we're not really getting too many actual kills out of it.
No.
Uh-oh. Watch this orb. Right, and then watch that healing. So as you're going through, you just know so much of it. Last time, just to confirm and maybe just as the reminder in case you forgot about it, do you recall what we talked about when it comes to application, putting this stuff into practice?
Yeah, it's like pick a thing to concentrate in the game and kind of like repeat the mantra of what it is you're gonna try and do before you're jumping in the game.
For sure, right? And the simple word for that is focusing, right? We're focusing on the thing you're trying to work on. So definitely just put an intentionality behind the okay. When do I heal? When do I damage? Because that's seeming to be probably the biggest thing. But we'll do the official diagnosis at the end. Right, another one right there, right?
Yeah.
Look at that one. Right, just kind of once again just sails off into nothingness over there.
Mending you.
Don't be afraid to peek for half a second for it, right? Like look at their team composition. Unless Zenyatta lands a perfect, 5 orb, if you're peeking for 1 second, you're not gonna get immediately killed. And then especially when you are like leaping around, or you're mixing up your movement and not just like peeking the corner and standing still. You can peek, toss an orb, and right here on the corner because that's probably where they're all aiming, right? They're probably looking like right at this corner. So maybe we could go and we could jump on card and like peek like that. But that sort of idea. Just don't be you don't have to be afraid of peeking.
I offer something more.
Oh, a little delay. So here we're doing a little too much healing on the junk, or we throw orb at the Junkrat, and then notice how we're just little delayed to heal the Mercy. Right, we're on the damage, and then we start to heal as soon as she's dead. Right.
Yeah, that got an immediate apology. Like, I'm so sorry.
Yep. There, I throw a heal orb, right? Because you're there.
Yeah.
You want the self sustain. You maybe want to be able to make it out, and if you throw heal orb at yourself, that's gonna help keep yourself alive a little bit longer.
What is it now?
Notice how we hold it down again, right? We heal, we heal, we heal. Now who are we healing, right? For that little bit, right? So watching that, just letting go. Okay, another overheal orb. Toss it. We could be tossing in a lot more damage orbs. I would say more not all the time. I would say more
Mhm.
frequently are you overhealing when damage could be done. So that'd be the one I'd watch out for. But sometimes we're damaging when we could be healing. But I'd say more
Sure.
frequently we're healing when we should be damaging. So rather than it being that 50-50 time wise, it's more like, like 80-20 or something like that. Okay. When you're ulting, you generally speaking want to have
I will.
as many people lined up as possible, right? Because
Yeah.
if you have one person lined up, then that's like okay. Like that's probably like below the pay grade of your ultimate. Like it's not really too worth it if you get one kill out of your ult.
Mhm.
If you have 6 people lined up, then if you think about it, that's probably over 6 times the value. That's probably like
Yeah.
7-8 times the value of having one person in your ultimate. So getting more people lined up is always going to be so much better, right? So once again, thinking kind of along the same lines of like the orbs, like we were talking about before, you get your ultimate 25% faster and how crazy of a stat that is. Think how crazy of a stat it is to be like, let's just say we make a rule where, okay, we're not gonna ult unless we can line up at least like 2 people, and now you've instantly got 100. You've got 200% value. Whereas before you got a 100% value. It's an instant 2 times value if we're just adding in that simple rule of I'm not gonna ult unless I got somebody else to ult with. And sometimes a really simple way to do that. Mantra.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can kind of pivot around the person you're trying to heal. So when
Yeah.
you're healing, presuming your team, you kind of go right behind them and pivot around them, and they receive healing the whole time while we're trying to where we're just healing automatically while
Mhm.
also getting damage in. So it just
Yeah.
increases the amount of damage we can get out.
Okay. Really nice.
Require assistance.
Another heal orb that kind of just goes bouncing off.
Yeah, that damage.
Another healing orb that just goes bouncing off. Now that's a damage orb. Now that damage orb is fine. I think that the timing in which you're using it is fine, but notice the direction in which you're throwing it.
Yeah.
Right. So which direction is Ramatra moving in right now?
The complete opposite of
Complete
the way
opposite
I
direction.
would like to
You
go. Yeah.
usually you want to throw it in the direction someone's moving, so it stays with them
For
longer,
sure.
right? So here we just change up the angle and go boop this way, and then now we can hit Sigma, we can hit Zenyatta, we can hit. Oh,
Yeah. That sojourn was so low. Yeah. Damn.
Pain is inevitable.
so definitely looking at those orbs, a lot of, not just the when to use which, but also the placement of them as well.
Yeah.
Right now, watch that orb right as it bounces off. All right, so just thinking through them, thinking them through them.
I offer something more. I must recharge. Hold up. Let go.
Uh-oh. Once again, watching the damage when we should be healing. So we gotta watch our teammates' health bars. All right.
Ready for battle. Ready.
Attackers incoming.
Big stanger lap. Stop the pain. You will be renewed.
All right, a bit of overhealing. Another thing that can help with resource management and healing is remember, or I mean, I'm not sure if you did, if you know about it or not, but I guess I'll just say it as the reminder that Moira does have heal over time effect with her healing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you tap someone, they'll heal up. And I think it's, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, about like 50 or something like that. So if somebody's low, sometimes all we gotta do is just tap, and then we just let that do the work, right? Or
Yeah.
when you're healing somebody, you don't have to hold it on to them until they're 100%.
Burst. Yeah.
What we can do is we can hold it down until they're like 85%, and then let the heal over time do the rest.
Cool.
So there we back up a little far, right? So this is, watching. Firstly, he's not really aiming at us, and then the other thing is we just like go way out of range. That was a good heal orb right there, because Reinhardt's critical and in need of burst healing, but then it just gets walled off, so that's unfortunate. Okay. So first, we watch how we're kind of walking backwards in a straight line, right? So that's not really going to help dodge his punches at all if we're just going in a straight line. So secondly here, we're trying to get away. Team's not really putting us in a great position here. Trying to think through this. I think it's okay that we fade backwards. I think it would be okay. Honestly, I think it'd be fine as well. Actually, you know what? I think it'd probably be a bit better if we like faded forwards and came over to the room, right? Because then we can heal
Got
teammates
you.
and still stay in the fight while having cover and getting away from the Ramatra.
Absolutely.
So fading up there would probably be better than back here. Watch, once again, we're trying to heal really far out of range, which is just wasting resources and wasting time. Okay. Remember, as you're turning this corner, what could you be doing?
Reloading.
Glancing your ammo real quick. Oh, whoopsie! I exited out of your character.
Reloading or charging up
Yep.
the old right click.
Yep, exactly. So charging up that right click definitely could be helping here. Kind of shooting at the orb a little bit there. Okay. Once again, kind of the same thing as like the bad habit of like the the healing hair. Just make sure we're kind of having a target when we're shooting. That way we're not wasting ammo. So turn around. Note that you do move minorly faster when you are looking forwards and pressing your forwards button. You're on
Okay.
console or PC?
Console.
Console, okay. When you are holding your joystick forwards and moving forwards versus if you're walking backwards, you do have a faster move speed. So I turn around here. The other thing that you can do is if you know that you're about to get frozen, you want to turn around and look at the ground, and that'll make it so that people can't headshot you as easily, right? Because it alters your
Nice.
head hitbox. So
Yeah, okay.
that's what I do is I turn around and run away here. So that might get you away sooner. The other thing to note with like the ultimates like that a lot of people don't think about is with a decent bit of ultimates, they're line of sight based, meaning that if you look at the little in May's ultimate, when you see the snowball there in the middle, her little robot, that's if you are out of line of sight of that ultimate, even if you're inside of it, so if I'm right here and even though I'm inside of it, it won't freeze you. Right? And it'll cancel the freeze effect. So, get out of line of sight. If we did this, that would mean that ultimate doesn't freeze you. And that will, cover. That's one of the best counters to that sort of thing. Okay, so let's start to do the wrap up. We talked
Yeah.
about primarily like one main concept, but you know, a lot of things within it.
Oh,
Um,
there is plenty for me to work on.
I will find them.
orbs, or sorry, let's talk abilities first, right?
Yep.
Fade. Look to use it a bit more often, right? Don't hold on to it. You can be used for mobility. It can be used for survivability and dodging damage and abilities and ults and things like that.
Nothing
Um,
remains.
you can you can use it to cover a lot of distance. You can use it to catch up to teammates. You can use it to get away. You can use it very technically, like you know, you can have very fine tuning with it where you don't have to go all the way forwards or all the way back. Sometimes you'd back up, like, you know, there'd be it'd be like, oh no, there's a bad guy, and then we'd go like all the way back like this far, and then we'd be like and now we're just really far away from the fight. um orbs heal when healing's needed, damage when you're not healing is not needed. Should be throwing a lot more damage orbs. When you are throwing orbs, try to make sure that it's actually heading in the direction where the teammate or enemy is walking in, or is where it's actually gonna like be on top of them. And notice though, you can actually melt enemies decently fast when it's a squishy target, and when you're actually throwing your damage orb at them at the same time, you melt them pretty fast. It's good ult charge. Try to bounce it off walls if it's for healing your teammates. Heal orb can be used when you're out of resource, when you're in between fights, when you are healing someone too far away, when you're burst healing people, when you're group healing people, etc., etc. Just when none of the above apply, then we're using a damage orb, which is going to be a decent bit of the time, right? So just use it much more frequently.
Okay.
Make sure just you're not kind of going off over there, right?
Sure.
Overall abilities, probably like a medium priority for you to work on. Next comes your ultimate usage. I would say for your ult, not, I wouldn't say as bad as abilities. Make sure you're not using it in won or lost fights. Make sure that you are trying to line up as many people as possible, right? The more people you can line up, the more value, and a lot of times you can kind of pivot on teammates, like I said before. Toss an orb before you go for your ultimate, and whichever, you know, whatever kind of ult you're trying to use. That's probably a lot of, like, you know, it's pretty much most of it. I'd say lower end of a medium for that. Next, you got your mechanics. So this is going to be, like, left click versus right click, primarily,
Yeah.
right? Same thing with ult, same thing with orbs, same thing with left click versus right click, is it's heal when healing's needed, damage when it's not. Make sure you watch your overhealing. We're doing a lot of overhealing. Someone's full HP and we're just going heal. Take my healing. Right, take it. Right? Watch that. Let's just immediately stop and swap to right click, right? Right click comes just that should be the immediate instinct. So we get these guys up, right? Remember, you can rely on that the heal over time effect to get the, you know, to top them off, and then we immediately swap to damage. You can be looking around for other people to heal. Sometimes all you got to do, tap them, get back to shooting, come back and tap them again, come back to shooting, because we want to check, we want to, you know, frequently check them, make sure they're good, right? But we can just kind of tap and come back, right? And then that keeps them, you know, with a constant influx of healing, while we're still checking up on their health bars, while we're still damaging, right? Besides that, let's see what else is there. Watch target priority, right? Target priority. Make sure you are not shooting at the tank all the time, right? Shoot at the easiest targets, not the hardest targets. They'll be the ones that actually die, unless you have no other option, or the hard targets have become easy targets. Besides that, that just seemed like the main thing, right? Damage much more frequently than are currently. Watch the resource management. Don't tap air, right? Don't heal air. Don't heal the enemies. Lots of wasting of the meter. Then let's see what's that. Overall, that one was like the medium high. Then, because that's also kind of the overall encompassing play style as well. Now, beyond that is positioning. Honestly, I don't think was insanely bad. I'd say, you know, just continue to make sure you're using cover. Continue to make sure you're sticking with your team, and you're not going off on your own. But the big thing with Moira was make sure you're within a range to damage at a moment's notice, right? 20 meters, and then also watch your heal range as well, right? So 20 meters for damage, 15 meters for healing. Right, so make sure keeping those in mind and kind of getting used to those ranges. And besides that's really most of it. So, I would say overall that one probably comes a bit lower down on the list. Probably like between a lower end of medium and a higher end of a medium high. It's like between that. And then finally you have awareness. Awareness wasn't I'd say the primary thing with awareness was kill feed, or not kill feed, was watching health bars, right? Watch the health bars of your teammates and of enemies, right? Pay attention to those, because those will dictate kind of what you're up to, what should you be doing. Besides that, just generally pay attention. Where's my team? Where's the enemy team? What's everyone up to? And then another thing we talked about was how to tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight, right? Watch kill feed. 1 to 2 is an advantage or disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. Don't use ults in won or lost fights. If you've lost the fight, you get out if you can. If you can't, you let them kill you. That is about on that. Overall, that was probably around the same as positioning. So to put that all in order, because as you work on especially as you work on the mechanics, that awareness is kind of part of that, right? Like that watching health bars is kind of an integral part of the overhealing, right? Number 1, mechanics, right? Like with the left click or right click. Number 2, abilities. Number 3, ult. Number 4, is probably positioning, and number 5 is awareness. Any questions?
No, that was great. Again, you've given me loads to work on, which is awesome.
Alrighty, glad to hear it. Let me go. This recording is